My name is Andrew, this is Rogue Wrench, and today we are talking about something super exciting, and that is budgeting for auto repair. So kind of a boring topic, but let me tell you why it's really important. Because 50 to 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. That really sucks if you've got an automotive repair. Additionally, 40% of US adults would be unable to cover a $400 expense as per a recent survey. So that's kind of an issue when your average repair cost is $200 to $500 per occurrence. That can be happening from every 6 months to potentially every month, depending on how old your car is. So it's really good to have money set aside, but how much money do you set aside? Where does planning ahead become crazy and you're setting aside all of your money and you're not living because you're putting aside money for car repairs? That's what I'm gonna try to answer for you today, is how much money should you be setting aside each month for automotive repair? Now, I just wanna cover really quick why a savings account is better than an aftermarket warranty, and here's why. Because your savings account can be used for anything related to your car: oil leaks, coolant leaks, engine replacement, tires, transmission replacement, or the actual whole vehicle replacement. If you decide to upgrade your car, money from your savings account can be used to replace the vehicle. Whereas with the aftermarket warranty, it'll cover you for catastrophic things such as a transmission or an engine, but it's not gonna help you with replacement cost if you have to replace the whole vehicle, or maintenance, coolant leak, stuff like that. There's a whole chart over here that you guys can look at that covers kind of basic repair estimates for the vehicle that we're examining today, which is a 2011 Ford Explorer. And there's all kinds of stuff on here, but some things I want to point out to you is we've got a parts column, a labor column, and then there's your job total over here on the right. So with this total column, if you're looking at that number and you're able to do a little bit of work yourself, you can actually bring that down by approximately the cost of the labor if you're willing to do the work yourself and you've got some basic tools. Not everything should be DIY'd, and DIY is not always cheaper. And there's a little story I have for you on why this is the case. A few weeks ago, a gentleman brought his truck into the shop that I work for and ended up spending several $1,000s in cleaning up the repair that he had attempted to do himself. Now, this is a work truck. He makes money with this truck when it's running, and so he's been 3 months without a truck and spent about $6,000 more than was necessary because he didn't like the original estimate from our shop to put an engine in his truck. So he tried to save about $1,500 in labor and ended up spending $6,000 more, and he doesn't have a warranty. So DIY is not always the answer. A lot of times for some more basic stuff, it is a better way to go, but when you do it yourself, you don't get a warranty on it. So definitely consider the warranty if you're considering doing something yourself. The other thing to consider when repairing a vehicle is at some point it's going to be time to replace that vehicle, and you should be setting aside money to replace that vehicle. That way you don't end up with a car payment that you're stuck with for the rest of your life. So here's some quick math. We're gonna take our replacement, we're gonna take target divided by time. So the target that we're gonna shoot for is $10,000 for a replacement vehicle, and the time that we've got is 2 years. So by that math, some simple division, and we can discover that if we set aside $416 a month, in 2 years, we'll be at 10 grand. Now, if you wanna break that down even further, say you get paid weekly, $96.15 per week sets you at 10 grand in 24 months. Real quick, I also want to cover this chart up here that I've drawn. Now this chart shows the rough estimated repair cost as you go through different mileages. So if we see over here on the left, you can see we start out really low. Not a whole lot of money being spent. We're basically just changing the oil, changing the air filter, keeping up on fluids, stuff like that. About 50K stuff is going to come due. Things like spark plugs, transmission fluid, tires potentially, maybe even brakes, depending on how hard your car is being driven. So there's going to be a little bit of a hump there at 50K where we're going to spend a little more money on automotive repair, and then it's going to kind of cool back down until we get up towards 100K. At 100K, you're going to be having things like water pump, timing belt if you've got one, spark plugs, transmission flushes, brakes, struts, motor mounts, stuff like that. All kind of goes out around that 120,000 mile range. And then once you get past that kind of hump of, wow, that's a lot of stuff to fix, it kind of cools back off till you get to about 150K. And again, kind of the same things. More things come due. Things that you did 50 or 100,000 miles ago have worn out now and need to be replaced again. So it's not necessarily a straight linear line as far as cost over time. You're going to see these humps at these mileages. And now these are not necessarily directly accurate for each car. Every car is going to be a little bit different. How many miles you drive, that sort of thing is going to change where these humps are at and how, sharp or steep they are. So that's just something to consider. So if you're starting way over here, you need to be setting a lot less money aside than if you're like right before a hump at 150. So that is going to kind of define how much you should be setting aside for auto repair. So for this car, which is 2011 Ford Explorer with 96,000 miles on it, so we are right right before that hump. As far as totals and how much money you should actually be setting aside for auto repair, we are going to be looking at about $35, which is about an oil change, as like kind of the minimum number that we should be setting aside each month. So minimum is 35, recommended is 75, the maximum is about 125. Now, obviously, it's your money. You can do whatever you want. You can set aside more than this if you want, but I don't think it's really prudent to set aside more than $125 per month. Now, replacement cost, if you're, like I said up here, if we were saving for a $10,000 replacement, we're going to be wanting to save $416 a month for a two-year out replacement. So $200 to $500 per month, depending on how much you're planning on spending for replacement and when you're planning on replacing your vehicle. The other thing is, if you've got replacement money set aside, something big happens to your car, you've got money to work with. It gives you a buffer. It gives you kind of a safety zone to where you're not in panic mode because you've got a $298 spark plug job that needs to be done in your car. So to kind of summarize all of this and tie it all back together, cars cost money. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. Save money. Minimum of the cost of an oil change per month. So if you're driving a diesel pickup truck and an oil change is $150, you should be setting aside $150 a month. If you're driving a Honda Civic and an oil change is 20 bucks, minimum should be 20 bucks a month. So that's just kind of the rough math on how to get there. I hope this video was helpful for you guys. If you want to see more information on when to know if your car is mechanically totaled, whether or not it's worth replacing, I will link that video right there. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys very, very soon.